In a sport when a great fighter might spend 10 years as a professional, it's been on for over 40. Mexico and Puerto Rico have been home to two of the most rabid fan bases and thriving scenes in boxing. Every time Mexico produced a new great, he found himself across the ring from a Puerto Rican ready to test his mettle. It's led to some of the greatest fights in boxing history.
Controls a lot. Nice land, glancing blow that time. Scores with the right hand. He's gonna knock him down. Oh, down goes Vargas. He is getting hurt.
And it had to start somewhere. So let's go back to the beginning and remember the men who threw the first punches in the biggest rivalry in boxing. Wilfredo "Bazooka" Gomez was a rising star in San Juan, Puerto Rico. He was the 118-pound champion, riding an 18-fight knockout streak. Before taking on Mexican challenger Juan Antonio Lopez.
You will find that the referee, Zach Clayton, one of the finest in the business, in the white trunks.
Gomez had it all physically.
Finally, a very nice, unanimous decision for less than 20 seconds now remaining in round one.
He was 21 years old and just coming into his own.
Covering up, hoping to not get other combination. There's a good right hand by Gomez.
He had the speedy slickness of youth.
Missed here in 1978. Losing his title. Those are not damaging punches. One punch, miss.
The bounce in the legs.
Bantamweight champion. So defending, landed.
The reflexes on defense.
And Puerto Rico.
But all of that was a distraction from what Wilfredo Gomez was here for.
Local stations. Up to now, it's been pretty hard to catch him flush.
He was a smart, deadly accurate puncher. He was dogged and relentless, but rarely reckless.
Lopez from Mexico, the number 3, the 10, Lopez. Picture problems. Accidental butt may have put a cut over his eye.
While Lopez refused to quit, Wilfredo made it known who the champion was and made a mess of the Mexican like he's eating a taco.
Lopez in trouble. Look at him take it. 12 seconds remaining in the 7th round, and that is all.
But the true first shot in the Mexico-Puerto Rico War came with a controversy. Carlos Zarate was a scary little legend in Mexico, like La Chupacabra. He had 51 wins with 50 knockouts. He came up in weight to face Gomez, and he came to San Juan to do it. Two weeks from the fight, Zarate gets the flu. He attempts to postpone the fight, but was threatened with a massive lawsuit. Zarate took 4 tries to make weight. Knew he couldn't go into the late rounds with Gomez, so he tries to push the pace early. Get him out early was the only option. The weight drained Zarate, but he was a warrior to his bones. But even bones need fluids to function. Zarate was a drawn-out scarecrow, unable to resist Wilfredo's onslaught. His feet got him into position. That didn't stop the tenacious great from getting up time and again. until he'd finally had enough. It was the first loss of Zarate's career, and the Mexican fan base felt like their champion hadn't been given a fair shake in San Juan. They required revenge. Problem was Wilfredo Gomez was a made man at 122 pounds.
We are live, but the fight is not. You saw on the left. I know about Gomez, 24 straight KOs. I don't think there's any 122-pounder in the world that can stay in there with Wilfredo Gomez.
And he's got an end, is in trouble. Down he goes.
Completely untouchable at his ideal weight class.
One of the most feared fighters, inch for inch and pound for pound in the ring. A man of almost savage fury.
He ran the table, knocking out every man he ever faced there. While Mexico put its hopes for revenge in its own rising star. Salvador Sanchez was a prodigy. He was born in a town 1.5 miles above sea level. He turned pro at age 16 and put himself through boxing boot camp that was Mexico City's teeming boxing scene. Salvador set about fighting his way to the top of the heap. He takes the 126-pound title off Danny Lopez.
Knockouts in his 42 victories. Right hand from Sanchez. Sanchez is moving around very well. Away from the wall. Back to Lopez on top. Right hand again. White and black. The challenger, Sanchez.
In two of the most one-sided championship fights you'll ever see.
Sanchez, 21 years of age from Mexico City, is the new WBC featherweight champion.
He never stops. Throws punches from every angle. Round one of a scheduled 15-round WBC featherweight champion. Right hand leads him. It's taken. Followed up and
All the more remarkable that Danny made 7 title defenses and Salvador calmly took him apart like he's selling organs.
look at those combinations. Then no knockdowns. Lopez wanted to continue in here. Oh, and there Lopez is the champion.
But it was just a preamble for the next chapter of the Mexico versus Puerto Rico saga. Sanchez took a title defense against the unheralded Puerto Rican puncher Juan Laporte. Salvador was expected to blow away his inexperienced opponent.
The bell for round one. Let's pick up with the action. Now you must remember this about Sanchez in the blue trunk. Wild left. We are really...
Juan got a title shot with just 15 fights on his record, and despite being the same age as Salvador, the experience gap was massive.
Left of your screen. Juan Laporte, the challenger. Quick gun, use it so effective. Laporte trying to carry the battle. Sanchez against the ropes. Is doing surprisingly well. But we've grown accustomed to Sanchez's pace. He always starts slowly. Good right gotten in there by Laporte. See that right gives scoring in this round. Sanchez.
While Sanchez was banking the rounds, it wasn't with the ease that many expected.
Oh, you saw that right. He will take this.
Juan came to fight, and even down the stretch, Laporte was shipping punches.
ABC's Wide World of Sports after this one. That's what you're trying to get a right in quickly. And you saw he
But quality tells over time,
staggered, but he was hurt. Laporte,
and no fighter was more comfortable going 15 rounds than Salvador Sanchez.
we're in the 9th round. A double knee. WBC version. Quick left.
When you run every morning at an altitude that would choke a Sherpa, cardio comes naturally.
Good left and right by Laporta. To the end of round 11. Ever since, oh, that right lead, that John Laporta. Sanchez is right. Left set it up there.
While Juan was always a step behind Sanchez, he did more for his career in a valiant defeat than any of his 14 previous wins.
He got caught there at right center, still fighting back as you see. Sanchez wanted to fight the fight, began in the 5th round, and you can see it. Plainly written. So, it comes to an end.
While a small measure of revenge for the Mexican fan base, it wasn't Juan's blood the Mexican crowd wanted.
If you watch this fight, you couldn't have been surprised. It was an easy...
Wilfredo finally felt the time was right to make the jump to 126 and test himself against a larger champion. So he stepped out of his comfort zone and into the ring with Salvador Sanchez. Wilfredo was on a 33-fight KO streak and was installed as the favorite going in. Salvador promised Wilfredo he'd need a before picture to recognize himself when Salvador got done with him. The pair met at Caesar's Palace. Each man led to the ring by a band blaring the music of their people, each with a nation at their back. Gomez grew arrogant with his greatness. The smaller man came in a huge betting favorite with 35 wins and 35 knockouts over the last 7 years. He swaggered into the palace like he owned the place. While Salvador was an assassin, calm and composed, prepared for the stabbing. You see it in the subtle smirk of knowing on his face.
He'll be taking on Wilfredo Gomez. Here we go. Round 1.
Gomez rushed him and pressed the Mexican to the ropes and went wild. Salvador saw exactly when and where to land, picked the perfect moment, and made his move. He catches the Puerto Rican on a counter right hand that only exists in slow motion and frame by frame. That's how compact it was, and drops the little tyrant for the first time a minute into the first round. The remaining minutes of the first was Salvador attempting to leave a body while fighting out of his skin. Gomez gathered himself between rounds, realized a round too late he was in a fight for his life. Gomez got to work, but the damage was done.
Gomez is trying to put all the power into the punches now, but he's making a mistake by trading punches with Sanchez. You can see it in his eyes. Right here, he let Gomez get off again. Like Gomez get in there. But again, Gomez is really not taking that pace. Fight from 15 now. You wonder how they're going to keep it up. For 15 rounds, I think they keep it tight. Section to try to come up with combination. But again, Sanchez couldn't fight him inside the punch. But then he found him.
That by round 3, he's sporting the shiner that would signal the end of the fight. It was more than a bit of a bruise. Wilfredo was fighting with a fractured eye.
Pace has slowed down just a bit this round.
Gomez is more the Joe Frazier type coming in, throwing punches.
Salvador sat back, weathered the storm, and fired back straight through the hail.
When Sanchez really...
Again, Sanchez into it.
And another angle. As Sanchez getting tagged a few times.
And he hit Sanchez inside.
No matter what happens.
That's right.
Before long, Gomez looks like he fought a whole bee's nest, while Salvador sits in his corner like it's the break room between procedures.
While he was coming out of the longer arm with Sanchez.
And taking a little bit of that wind out of Gomez.
That's the first time. Again, they're taking close punches. Gomez is on the rope with shut under the nose again. He's hurt. He's hurt. Gomez is hurt.
The doctor delivered his final incision in the 8th. The right hand gave Fredo the kiss of death. The hot-blooded rivalry raged on for decades, drew huge crowds and endless cash from the rabid fan bases, as well as producing some of the greatest fights of all time. But when tragedy truly strikes, the factionalism is left aside. Salvador Sanchez would have just 3 more fights before he crashed his Porsche 928 while speeding through the back roads of his homeland. The 23-year-old genius was gone. His humble hometown, a mile and a half up in the mountains of Mexico, held a festival every year to commemorate their dearly departed champion. Wilfredo Gomez would attend that festival 38 times since Salvador passed. A man once hated in his homeland was now a dear friend to the family of his fallen opponent. Wilfredo was humbled by Salvador in the ring, and the people of Mexico were humbled by Gomez's graceful response to his passing, even if it was grudging sometimes, because Wilfredo would knock out 2 more Mexicans to win championships. But that is another story for another day.